What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at the Hasbro Star Wars Vintage Collection Streets of Mos Eisley playset. So this is a pretty cool set that just came out recently. So we get this playset diorama of the Streets of Mos Eisley. So we get like a wall panel with a door that'll open. We get a gatekeeper droid on the front of that. Then we get an additional wall piece. You can just sort of modular build this, put it wherever you want. And then an archway as well, along with some extra little containers and stuff you can sort of populate the street with. And it comes with a Jawa figure. So I think it's maybe newly designed, not exactly sure, but a new Jawa figure there, a part of the vintage collection. Now if we lean it down, we can see some more of the features. So again, the street just shows you can buy multiple of these and build out a whole street. I just bought the one because that's all I really care for. A little picture there of all our storage containers and the Jawa sort of going through it, and then it's sort of standing at the door there as well. It's pretty fun. So just a pretty neat design on the back, just a repeat of the same thing there. So just a pretty fun set. Now I do buy a good amount of vintage collection stuff. I mostly buy a lot of old 3 3/4 figures of Star Wars, but I still buy vintage collection stuff every now and then, especially if there's stuff I like. I just don't usually do videos on it too often, so figured we'll take a look at it. So let me get this open out of the box and we'll take a look at our Mos Eisley Street. So here we have all our pieces of Mos Eisley out of the box. So of course, if you didn't know, Mos Eisley is the large spaceport settlement on the desert planet of Tatooine that contains 362 hangar bays and home to numerous species of aliens from all across the galaxy. And as Obi-Wan said, you will never find a more wretched home of scum and villainy. And so really cool to have this design. Of course, you can buy multiple of these and sort of like connect them all together. Of course, you'll just get the same like 3 wall pieces, but there's pretty cool pictures on the box and stuff of sort of like you rearrange, making like alleyways and just all sorts of stuff you can do with this. Of course, for me, I'll just probably go with the most like basic design I can possibly do, just because I don't have a lot of space, but it does look really cool. So we get 3 wall pieces. So we have just an archway over here, which is really nice. Always nice to have an archway. It just stinks with stuff like this, you have an archway with nothing behind it. But like I said, if you do buy multiple of these, you can put them together. So we get the connection points here. You can then connect them to different pieces. So we get the pegs on the one side. We have a hole on this side. I do believe there's holes on the back, so holes in like peg design. So I believe you can connect these together. So yeah, it's opposite. So you get pegs on the corners here, holes on the others. So if you reverse them, you can attach them together. So I have like a bigger, wider archway if you want that as well. So that's pretty cool. Like the archway design, like I said, it's just the part of like going through it. That's the issue. Then we get like this basic wall piece. So again, just a basic wall. Love how it has like the square cutout and then like the big rectangle, like alga and stuff, a little vent up top there. So that's really all there is for that. Of course, we can flip around. Nothing really going on there, but we get the holes on one side, pegs on the other to attach it. And of course, the big feature with this is this additional wall in the back that looks more like the buildings you see in Tatooine. Of course, like for me, playing like all sorts of different games and stuff where you can go on the buildings like the old Battlefront games and all that stuff. So we get an archway up top, or like a round dome, I should say, kind of what a lot of the buildings have. So the round dome up top. And then of course the wall here, it's cool that we get the additional features. So we get stairs, which obviously you can take those off. You have like a hole underneath and stuff though if you don't have the stairs on, but you can do that. So you get the stairs up to the door, and there actually is stairs on the back side as well. So you could have this all sort of turned around facing out, have it like the inside of a cantina or something like that. We get a control panel here with all sorts of buttons, doesn't do anything, just painted on there. We get a gatekeeper droid, which I feel sticks out way too far for this, but the nice gatekeeper droid there, which screen visitors and scan them for weapons and stuff. So nice big thing coming out there. There is a little, like, I want to say switch or something here on the back. So a little piece that you can do this and sort of moving around to have like, get it in wherever position you want there. So that's pretty nice. And then we also get a sliding door, which is really cool. So nice door design, looks like the doors from Tatooine, so no issues with that. And again, we did get a little sliding piece, so it kind of pops in. That's kind of hard to undo. I've kind of left it loose so I can easily move it, but you can slide it back and forth, and as you see, it has grips on each side, so it kind of grips those in if you want to have them solid, but you can slide the door back and forth. So have people at the door arriving there, and of course you can then have it slide open to let them in. And again, the nice thing is that it slides back and forth, but then if you have it open, you have this area you can just see through to the back there. So for me, I'll always just leave the door shut and put people in front of it. So that's a pretty nice design. And again, we get the attachment pieces, so holes on one side, pegs on the other to attach them up, so we can sort of just arrange this however we want. Then we get the additional like boxes and stuff just to sort of populate the street. We get this, I assume it almost looks like a downspout, could be like a vent thing of some sort, so you can just like take it and sit it up against the wall. I thought it would like peg onto a wall to make it more stable, but you just find a flat spot and just sort of sit there and it'll attach to the building. We get this big canister like drum thing, and not really sure what any of this is supposed to be, but just this big container, looks like stuff we'd probably see in real life. We get these little storage containers, so we get like this yellow and like dark red maroon color. So we get is, same box design and all that, but you can open them up, so the lids will open up there and you can store stuff inside if you want. Same with both of those. So that is pretty nice, just those box designs there. And then we get this bigger box, which to me does look like something you'd see more on Mos Eisley, but it's just this big, like weird cubey like design. I don't even know what you'd call it with all the different sides and stuff, but it of course can open up as well. Now that sticks on a little bit more there, but bigger, deeper storage and stuff. So you could store stuff like you probably store, we have one of those boxes in there if you don't want it out, but that's pretty cool. Nice big storage design, but again, just as something to populate the street up if you want. So with this, we can sort of make a design. I'm trying to decide, like I was trying to decide how I want to do this. Of course, there's pictures all over the box and the internet of what you could do with it, but I think for me, I had it set up pretty much like it is here, just had like this design, but I think having the door and this stuff too close to the archway kind of made it awkward. So I think I'll go ahead and flip them around. So I'll go and put this wall attached onto the archway here, and then attach the piece with the door onto the end of that. So just like that, that'll probably be the setup I have. I can then take this piece and just maybe stick it here in the background. Of course, I don't like how it doesn't sit flat because, of course, probably with the base of your table and stuff, and then it's probably curved with being plastic and everything. So it probably doesn't sit the best, but just sort of fit that right inside that slot there. And then we can just take these containers and sort of sit them around. Maybe for this thing, I'll sit one on each side of there, sit this one back in this far corner or something like that. Just sort of populate it like that. So that way we have the archway, but it's over to the side. So, you know, from like this section, it looks like it's something, but you won't be seeing directly through it to see that there's absolutely nothing there through that side. And then of course the set also came with a Jawa. I don't have very many like Tatooine stuff. I did order that new land speeder that's coming with Luke, so that I could easily, you know, set that up in front of this as well. So that'd be cool to get it. But I don't really have anything Tatooine besides Jabba's palace related stuff. So all my stuff's used for Jabba's palace. So anything for Mos Eisley itself, I don't really have. But we did get the Jawa figure as well. So we get the new Vintage Collection Jawa figure, which looks really nice here. There, I'll zoom in a little bit for it. So pretty nice design. So we do get the fabric, which of course I always have issues with Star Wars characters and their fabric. It does seem the Vintage Collection is maybe a little better because they don't use as much fabric, but you know, it's still quite a bit of fabric. Kind of lose much of the figure there, but we still get the plastic hood on it, which is nice. So we don't have to worry about trying to keep the hood up and all that. But we can see the like black wrapped up face of the creature in there. Of course, Jawas are meter tall furry humanoids that are native to Tatooine. They are scavengers that comb the desert in search of scraps to sell and trade, and wear moisture regulated and insulated robes, but they tend to smell like wet rats, so probably not the nicest design for them. But it's nice with the all blacked out face in there. You can see it's got like wrappings and stuff around it, and the yellow eyes that always shine out through their hood. Then they got the brown robes on top of that, so you get the nice fabric brown robes here. Get some like bandolier straps going around, so nice straps full of pockets there in brown, and then like a black one coming around, which does have a pocket there, so we will have a holster and stuff. So that's nice. We get their hands there, so we get their black hands, which I see in some pictures they almost look like monkey hands and stuff, but this just looks more like a gloved hand. But whatever it is there, we get their hands, and of course underneath they have the all brown robe design. So if we wanted to, we'd try and take all these straps and bandoliers off and stuff, and then take the robe off, just have the base underneath, and then we can sort of lift this up here and see more of the brown design. So yeah, it's just gonna be all brown underneath that sort of matches with this hood, and we can see its legs, get the wrapped up legs, very similar to like what Luke and everything wears on Tatooine. So pretty nice design overall for the Jawa. Of course, for me, I don't really have too many, like especially modern Jawas. I have old ones from the 90s that are all the plastic and just have a little bit of articulation and stuff, but looks pretty nice overall for this. Now movement wise, we do get the head that will twist around, so we can twist there side to side, and just very little like rocking movement in it. Then we go to the shoulders, which will come up over 90 there, and it feels like it may have a butterfly joint, or it's just sort of like open in there, so it allows for movements, because there's a little bit of movement back and forth, but again with the robes I can't really tell. Then we get the single elbow joint, just got to find out where that joint is. There it is, and it'll bend up there pretty close to 90 and has rotation in it as well. Then of course we get the wrist that'll twist just all the way around there. Then we can go down to the legs, which as you saw as I lifted this up, there is a twist at the waist, so it should be a twist all the way around there. And then we just get basic hip joints, so just move back and forth there. And a lot of times Vintage Collection figures do have movements with the feet, but on the Jawa here they don't, so no movements for that at all, which is fine. I'm still able to get to the stand, no issues or anything. Now sitting, of course, don't really need to sit. Yeah, I'll just sit. I'll say I don't really need it to like sit, but it could sit, and yeah, it will sit just like that. So you could sit it on the steps here if if you want it as well. But overall works out pretty nice. Like I said, does stand pretty easily, so no major issues or anything going on with the Jawa there. But he does come with some weapons. So first we get a little pistol, so this nice silver pistol design. Haven't really seen him use guns like this before, but we do get it, and I'll just go and store that into the holster there, so there it can hold on to that gun. Obviously we can put it in his hand as well. Then he comes with 2 different guns, which are guns we see used a lot with the Jawas. They're labeled as ion blasters, but they're both labeled as ion blasters, so don't know if it just depends on the different Jawas or what. Like, I feel we see Jawas use like this to attack like R2 out in the desert, like when they try to capture R2 and everything. But then we also get more of this, what I always call like a blunderbuss sort of design there as well, so we can pick and choose either one. Not that it really matters. I don't know if one goes into the hand easier than the other, because obviously they have these little tiny hands, so it's not easy to get the guns in them. And they don't really have trigger fingers. They have like the finger lifted up design to try and get it, but you can just have them holding onto a gun like that, so I just chose that gun. And of course with the other gun we could try and put it into his hand. I don't know how well it'd fit into his hand, if it would even hold on to it, but we could do something with it, or we can just store it into the containers there, so it's nice to have those extra storage containers around. So with that, we can now have our Jawa sort of like journeying and venturing through Mos Eisley there, which is pretty cool. So like I said, overall a nice set. It'd be cool to come with more characters, obviously, you know, more characters to populate it, but that's why you're supposed to buy all the extra figures, to populate your streets of Mos Eisley. But a pretty cool set. So like I said, once I get the Luke's land speeder and stuff, I'll be able to like sit in front of this, so it just kind of fills it out more, like maybe where Luke's trying to sell off the land speeder and everything. So it just gives you that option, just a nice piece of scenery for the background of your Star Wars sets. So let me know what you thought of the Streets of Mos Eisley Star Wars Vintage Collection set here down in the comments, and if you enjoyed my review, let me know with that like, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see more. But I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all stay awesome out there, and I'll see you in our next review.